Alright, it worked this time. Yay! Alright, so this is the story of Alyssa Rainwater and Mandy Hughes. Um, a lot of people offered to help me, and most of them were addicts or alcoholics. And with the people harassing me on my Facebook and threatening to kill me and all of that other bullshit, it was a very unsafe situation. Um, I needed an honest day in court. People just kept on doing really fucked up shit. People who pretended to be my friends. I say pretended because if they were actually my friends, they would have done as I asked. Like Candace Bondurant, worst friend I ever had, bar none. When I was taking the pictures off of her wall, she should have listened to me. But she wanted the pictures on the wall, and next thing you know, she's getting pictures of her old living room that she's seeing in these Natalie Bollinger groups that are actually Sean Schwartz hate groups at this point. And instead of calling the cops, she just shut down her Facebook. Well, that shit needed to be documented. I'd already been harassed and threatened and assaulted for over a year by that point. Um, I was forced into a situation where I was severely overwhelmed, and my housing situation was taken away, and my money was gone because Natalie died. And I didn't have a safe place to go. Now, immediately, I had thousands of people trying to shut down my Facebook and anything that I tried to say. And that made it very complicated for me because I hadn't had a day in court. I'd been trying to get one and just hadn't gotten one. I'd gone to many people for help who just didn't have the time, kept saying they'd make the time and just never did. Miss Peaches had helped me out during the last month of December, or the last month of 2017, finally. And I was excited because I finally had a court date, or finally had a meeting, sorry, with Natalie. And I went to see Natalie. I was hoping she was going to stop the crazy like she had typed that she was going to. And although I wanted to meet at the police station, she wanted to meet at Starbucks. Why wouldn't she want to meet at the police station? She was trying to hide her heroin bullshit. That's fucking why. She didn't care that I was being harmed over things that I didn't do. She just wanted to hide her heroin. Well, when Natalie ended up dead, and I was over at Miss Peach's house when Natalie ended up dead, or when she ended up missing, I was literally at Miss Peach's house trying to get help, starting a GoFundMe because all of my money had been stolen, and trying to get a fucking lawyer so that I could go after Natalie Bollinger and also Ken and Leah. Now, I was trying to be nice about it, mostly because I didn't have the money for a fucking lawyer, and they're not going to listen to me because of the term mentally ill. So I needed help. Um, it sucked. Then the day that Miss Peaches had set aside, after I've been going to Miss Peaches for over a year, I'd gone to her house. This is the fourth time I'd been to her house for help. Um, well, I was very much pissed off. I was trying to get an advocate, and I was hoping Miss Peaches would listen this once, and she swore up and down that she was gonna. And then Natalie disappeared, and it turned into nobody's fucking listening to Sean. They're all yelling and screaming and telling me what to think and what to feel, and it's everybody's turn to talk but mine. Again, just like always. Fuck. What a goddamn pain in the ass. So, Well, I am busy trying to help find Natalie, trying to get her safe. Um, I've got a bunch of fucking wingnuts that are getting a hold of me and threatening me on Facebook and doing everything they can, including just calling everything spam. And I'm on Facebook bans over the stupidest fucking shit. I'm literally trying to get help. I've gone to the police for help on multiple occasions. I've gone to everybody that there is to go to try to get help with this situation. But everybody's too busy fucking talking. Nobody gives a fuck what I have to say. And it's not registering to any of these fucking idiots that the reason that I'm not in Boulder saving lives like I always did is because I have to deal with a bunch of goddamn crackheads, meth heads, whatever, threatening me, harassing me, and assaulting me over something that should have been done and over with when I left Virginia. Now let's get to the part with a lot of the people that I knew that were a lot of people who were sticking up for me in these Facebook groups were immediately kicked out. It was specifically Sean Schwartz slander groups, and anybody who is not out to collect Sean Schwartz's head is not allowed in these groups. Um, so then we get Mandy Hughes. There was a very limited selection of people that I had gotten their phone numbers before the Facebook bans, and the people who I saw defending me in these Facebook groups were the ones that I got a hold of. Um, Mandy Hughes was one of the people who got a hold of me, and she wasn't commenting in these groups because she didn't want to be targeted. Now, she's right. A lot of people were targeted. They weren't just kicked out of these groups. Some of them had their lives threatened repeatedly. And when I had to think about my decisions, I didn't have to think about just Mandy's family. I didn't have to think about just Candace's family. I didn't have to think about just Peach's family. I had to think about all of these people's families, all of these people who had stuck up for me and their safety and their children's safety. And I'm trying to explain to them, hey, you're being very unsafe with what you're doing. You're putting me at risk and you're putting yourself at risk. Um, and yeah, that was a major contributing factor to me attempting to kill myself. Um, when I was assaulted by Officer Whale in Lolatai, I was severely overwhelmed. I'd been through repeated assaults and repeatedly separated from people like Corbin Bailey, who was trying to help me, and a few other people who were trying to help me, and just fucking sucked. And I was overwhelmed, and people wouldn't stop fucking texting. I'm like, stop texting and listen to what I'm telling you. And, people made a lot of really fucked up mistakes during that period. Um, like, like Amanda Engeline typing in a group with people that I don't fucking know these people. And she's typing to them that I'm going to Rapid City. This is where Jamie and the boy live. So now she's putting Jamie and the boy at risk, as well as me being at risk and putting herself at risk and everybody else at fucking risk. And this is mentally fucking retarded. I hate that word, by the way, but it definitely fits this situation. Amanda Ingline is dumb as a fucking stump. So I was also worried about Natalie's family because at that point, not just me, but also Danica and a lot of other people in her family were obviously aware of the kind of person that Ted is, and they were scared shitless of the man and scared that, yeah, he might have killed Natalie. It was pretty obvious to anybody involved in the situation that I didn't do it. Anybody involved, anybody who fucking knew me, knew that I didn't kill Natalie. So we'll get into the situation with Mandy. On one of the trips to one of my court dates, I was able to meet with Mandy Hughes in person at the Walmart in Longmont. And this is during a visit to Miss Peaches. and Miss Peaches was going to help. And Miss Peaches didn't have time. She was busy playing on her phone at the time. Now, mind you, she also has kids. It's important for a parent to have their own private time. Well, this is during the period of time where I've got three different people who are telling me that they'll make the time to go in with me to speak to the police. Miss Peaches, Mandy Hughes, and Katie Kate. Now, this just never ended up happening. And Mandy Hughes, the day that we were supposed to go in, myself and Mandy Hughes were going to go in. And Mandy Hughes let me know that she couldn't go in because she had a warrant for her arrest. So Miss Peaches had called while I'm waiting on Mandy Hughes. Miss Peaches had called me and said that she would go in with me, but I'm literally waiting on Mandy at this point. So Mandy lets me know that she's got a warrant out, and so she can't go in. So it's already too late for me to go in with Miss Peaches or Mandy or anybody. It's just too late in the day for that. And I did actually get a hold of Miss Peaches to, let her know what was going on and see if we could rearrange for another date. Now, the issue that happened between Mandy Hughes and I and Alyssa Rainwater. First, I'm going to tell you how wonderful they were, and also the fact that they were so wonderful to me proves that those officers outright lied. Officer Amanda Jonas outright lied. And the fact is that Mandy Hughes needed to come forward about that, and Alyssa Rainwater needed to come forward about that. And the police did everything they could to prevent me from being able to talk to those people. Now, there was because of that situation and because of the repeated instances of trying to go in and get the police to take my report, if I went in with somebody, they just wouldn't answer their fucking door. There weren't a lot of instances where I actually got somebody to literally keep their word to go in. Matter of fact, there was only one. And it was too late in the day, and that was Miss Peaches. But the thing is, I was slandered in court, and Mandy Hughes, her testimony should have been taken in court. And same thing with Katie Kate, and same thing with Miss Peaches. But the thing is that the police had assaulted me and gone out of their way not to speak to any of the witnesses, and my public pretenders didn't give a shit. Mandy Hughes said that she spoke with my public pretender, Amanda Pamela Cardi. Mandy Hughes was a witness that the things that Pamela Cardi wouldn't allow me to see in my files at any point. I mean, I literally had to sneak a look at that file. I literally had to break the law to try to get a fucking court date. I mean, here I am being threatened and harassed by the Bollingers left and right and their friends, and having my life threatened repeatedly by these people. I mean, I needed this shit to fucking stop. And Mandy Hughes said that she would help, and she couldn't because of her warrants. So it's not that, like Amanda Jonas had typed, that nobody was willing to help me probably because of the way that I act. No, it's because she had a fucking warrant for her arrest. Miss Peaches is a fucking mom, for shit's sake. So is Mandy Hughes. So is Alyssa Rainwater. Now, Mandy Hughes had let me know that Alyssa Rainwater was a 911 dispatch operator the night that Natalie disappeared. She already knew that Natalie was dead. I didn't. Not at that point, anyway. Now, when I went to jail in Boulder and was assaulted repeatedly in the jail, the officers kept on making fun of me, and they kept saying stuff, well, you can get a lawyer when you get out. I don't need a fucking lawyer. I need charges pressed against you guys and an investigation now. I need a safe environment where I won't be assaulted by fucking cops who already pulled this shit earlier in the year. By the way, two of the cops that assaulted me in August killed a man later that year, too. Imagine that. Two of the cops that were making fun of me and assaulting me and harassing me in the Boulder County Jail killed a man while making fun of him, if you can imagine that. So, while I was in jail, my very first week there, I should have been able to contact these people like not Alyssa Rainwater, like Miss Peaches and people like that, but I couldn't. I had called, I'd been prevented from having a phone call while I was in Boulder. They wouldn't allow me to have one, and the officers refused to give me their names. And when I tried to turn in the officer who I was trying to turn in brought the piece of paper back to me. They wouldn't allow me to turn in that officer. And the thing is that I had literally broken the law to try to force the cops to do their jobs. And Miss Peaches said that she would go in with me. And when it all came down to it, she didn't go in with me. And instead of Amanda Jonas's slander standing, Miss Peaches should have come forward then. But the problem is I couldn't get in contact with Miss Peaches. Now, Mandy Hughes put some money on my books, or put some money on my telephone so that I could make phone calls. But I couldn't make those phone calls. That money never made it there. And the police did everything in their power to make my life a living hell while I was in that jail. I needed help. Now, I'd had to deal with crazy people like Layla Dunan. It was fucking Hades. So at this point, literally having to break the law to try to force the cops to fucking do their goddamn jobs because I'm being threatened, harassed, and assaulted. I don't have the money to go to all of these fucking court dates. And meanwhile, those court dates from January of 2018 are for crimes that I didn't commit. I was assaulted by Waylon Lolatai, and I was assaulted in Clearview and injected with very dangerous mind altering drugs, something that is very commonplace, by the way, when you try to turn in police officers. That is their go to. Oh, he's trying to turn in a police officer? We're going to call him mentally ill and we're going to have him institutionalized and have him drugged. Well, I never stopped trying to get the police to listen at any point in time. Now, because that money never showed up, and the police had repeatedly fucked around, and Amanda Jonas wasn't doing her goddamn job and wasn't showing up to court dates, wasn't showing up to any of my hearings. Fucking, she didn't requisition any of the evidence that needed to be requisitioned. Well, I was pretty fucked. And still, that money hadn't shown up. And then an officer Montana, I was supposed to have a phone call, and I was denied. He was told me I could have that phone call as soon as we got back to the pod that I was staying in. And when we got back to the pod that I was staying in, not only did I not get that phone call, but I didn't get that phone call at all until much, much later. I was finally allowed, pretty late at night, and it was already too late for my court dates, and I was finally allowed to call someone, and I got a hold of Mandy Hughes, and we talked for a while, and I was hoping that she would come forward and speak to the police and speak to my public pretender, and she said that she would. Although, if you look at my court paperwork and in the messages that I received from there just recently from, actually, I should make a video on that too. They didn't mention that. They didn't mention anything about Mandy Hughes. They didn't mention any of the things that I had told Pamela Carty at all. Pamela Cardi had gone out of her way to allow the slander against me by the officers to stand. People were trying to help me. The police outright refused to allow them to do so. Now, each one of these people that I spoke about at the very beginning of this video, each one of these families that were put at risk, they shouldn't have been put at risk. Mandy Hughes wanted to worry just about her family. Candace wanted to worry just about her family. Peaches wanted to worry just about her family. They're all scared of the Bollingers, and they're all scared of the cops. I have to worry about all three families, and I still worry about all three families. I also harass all three families because all three of them threw me under the fucking bus. But I don't blame it entirely on them. It's not Mandy Hughes' fault that that money never showed up. When I was finally able to talk to her on the phone, hoping that she would come forward to Amanda Jonas, did she? Did she actually do that? It's an important question. Amanda Jonas wrote down that nobody would come in with me. No, lots of people wanted to. Lots of people claimed that they would, like Mandy Hughes and like Miss Peaches. They repeatedly claimed that I wasn't making any effort. No, Miss Peaches knows for a fact that I was making an effort. Miss Peaches was helping me to try to set up mental health appointments and try to get this stuff done, but she didn't have a lot of time. She's a fucking mother. And Mandy Hughes, it wasn't just the whole situation with her having warrants, it's also the fact that her family kept on getting sick, and I was worried fucking shitless. You're goddamn right. This is a woman who's trying to help me out, and she can't because her family keeps getting sick. And I need to explain to her what's going on, but I end up listening to her because I'm worried about her family. I do care about them. So, finally, when it's too late for it to do any goddamn good, Amanda Balehash hasn't done her job. She didn't show up for my pretrial. She didn't requisition any of the evidence that needed to be requisitioned. The slander got to stand, and nobody bothered with getting a hold of the witnesses. Miss Peaches was a witness to the shit that I was going through. So was Mandy Hughes. So was Shannon Alvarado. And I had tried to explain these things to Pamela Cardi, but Pamela Cardi just didn't give a shit. She was too busy trying to run me into the fucking ground because she didn't want to have to deal with the fucking case. So Alyssa Rainwater, she came and saw me in the jail. She was fucking wonderful. You got no idea. She was a lifesaver. And she was actually able to put money on my books. By that point, it was too late, though. By that point, the police had already refused me my phone calls. And the one phone call that I got to have with Mandy Hughes didn't go anywhere. Pamela Cardi didn't bother bringing that up in court, the fact that people were trying to help me. Of course, Pamela Cardi wouldn't. Why would she? I'd already threatened to sue her for not doing her fucking job by that point. And so Alyssa Rainwater, let me tell you how wonderful this young woman was. She spent a lot of money on the telephone. It was too late to do me any good in court, but at least, goddamn, that hurts. At least I was able to finally talk to people. And I was able to talk to Miss Peaches just a little bit. And I was able to talk to Mandy Hughes. And I was able to talk to Alyssa. And, like, seriously, these are all, first of all, these are all wonderful people. I want to mention that first and foremost. Although we're 24 minutes into this video. So, Alyssa Rainwater, um, Mandy Hughes is obviously scared of being targeted. Um, she hasn't come forward uh, in public about any of this, and I'm literally going through hell because none of these people are coming forward in public because they're afraid of being targeted. Um, so they all told me that they would speak up for me in court and show up at court. And Alyssa Rainwater apparently showed up to one of my court dates. They had repeatedly put me on suicide watch for trying to tell on police officers. I was being harassed and assaulted by other inmates, some of them at the request of an officer that I had turned in by the name of Officer Macrae. Short, pretty redhead, pretty white girl, doesn't know shit about fucking reality, and here she is working in a jail trying to basically feel like she's a real man. She's just a fucking punk. So when I was supposed to be released, um, now mind you, when Alyssa Rainwater showed up to see me in court, because she showed up in court to see me, they wouldn't allow me to have my court date. They made sure that she didn't get to go see me in court. And mind you, she'd already come to see me in person and had to talk to me on the machine there in the jail. And she put money on my books for the phone, and that's not cheap. And then she came to pick me up when I was supposed to be released. Well, I wasn't released because Amanda Balehash didn't do her fucking job. She was trying to hide the fact that she didn't do her job, and she outright fucking lied to me repeatedly. She also promised me that if I said in court what it is that her and her friend, another public pretender, had coached me to say the night before, that I would be released on my birthday. But that didn't happen. And Alyssa Rainwater had driven all that way to pick me up. I was so fucking pissed. And they continued to hold me. And they shipped me to Larimer County, which is where I was assaulted in Clearview. And in Clearview, they are the ones in the position of power. They get to control the video cameras. They get to turn them on whenever they want, and they can drag you out of view of the screen so that they can harm you however they want on the upper half of your body because the cameras will only see the lower half. It was completely fucked. So when I was transferred to that other jail, Alyssa Rainwater put money on my phone there too, and I got to talk to her every day. I mean, I was only allowed out of my cell for half an hour a day, an hour max if they let me out twice, which they usually did not. And as a result, I'm in this cell by myself, and I don't have anyone to talk to. Nobody's paying any attention. Alyssa Rainwater, that's in Colorado. Um, El Fluffy. There's somebody commenting over here, so that's why I'm answering that. Now, this is the same Alyssa Rainwater that I have been harassing. And mind you, I have been harassing her. Not just her, but also Peaches, and also Candace's mom, because Candace is a fucking coward. Um, so, Alyssa Rainwater, yeah, they're all in Colorado. That's where most of this took place, although I was being threatened and harassed in Virginia, as well as here in Nebraska over the situation with Natalie Bollinger. Anyway, Mandy wasn't able to go in with me to get the police to take my report, so Alyssa said that she would when I got out. At that point in time, Mandy's husband had lost his job. They were having a lot of financial problems, and like Alyssa had spent all of her money on me being able to have telephone time. Mandy had tried doing the same thing, but they wouldn't allow that money on my books. They wouldn't allow that money when it would actually do something, when I could actually contact Miss Peaches and tell her, hey, they're really trying to fucking railroad me here, and they're saying that none of you were making any effort. Mandy Hughes never made any effort, and Miss Peaches never made any effort, but I wasn't able to do that because they wouldn't let Mandy Hughes's money there. Um, that part where Mandy Hughes had given me the money was in Arapahoe County when they had transferred me to Larimer County. Um, that was after I knew that they had already taken away my disability money, and I was pissed off because Pamela Cardi had outright lied to me and had me. Um, well, I had a vehicle at the time, El Fluffy, but now I'm on foot. I have to depend entirely on others. That's the problem with the assault by the Boulder Police Department and that officer, is that after that, I couldn't take care of myself. I literally couldn't. I didn't have the money. It was all being spent going to court. I had a vehicle that was broken, and I was able to fix it finally a few months later, but it eventually got taken when I was arrested. Uh, I didn't have the money to get it out, and the people that I was staying with at the time were going to give me money to get it out. I'd spent a lot of money at their house so that they had food and they had weed and they had their rent covered and they had uh, alcohol, which I don't even drink. Um, but also, when I was at Tabitha Michelle Cook's house, that's where I was at the time. They were extremely good too. Before I get to Tabby's, let's get to the important part. Um, I was in the jail and I was in Larimer County, and they wouldn't allow me to speak to the judge, speak to an attorney, nothing. They just outright denied all of it. Um, and I was trying to get a hold of people, and I was talking to Alyssa Rainwater every day, and I was able to talk to Miss Peaches a couple of times. And Miss Peaches, now let me tell you how wonderful Miss Peaches is. Okay, she she had to make a choice between bailing me out and paying her rent. And I assured her that there was money in my account. There should have been about 2 grand because I had been in jail for so long. Now I already knew that they had cut off my disability money because I had been incarcerated for so long because they refused to release me on a PR bond. And mind you, I'm literally told the police when they fucking came and got me, I'm like, hey, I broke the law to force you guys to do your goddamn jobs. No cops in Colorado or Nebraska will do a goddamn thing about it. Um, I'm in Nebraska, but just so you know, I've been in Nebraska, Wyoming, Colorado, um, Virginia, and Washington State and California. California is the only one where I didn't have legal issues and wasn't dragged into a mental institution. Oh, yeah, and South Dakota as well, I should mention. But anyway, getting back to the story, Mandy Hughes was absolutely fucking wonderful, and so was Alyssa Rainwater. But I had just been fucking fluffed in court. Sorry, Fluffy. Um, because my public pretender wouldn't talk to those witnesses, wouldn't allow those witnesses in court, and if they showed up, they just wouldn't hold court. And I was fucking pissed about this. And so I assured Miss Peaches that if she was to get my card, that she could use my card to send me my money so I could bail myself out. And it didn't work out that way. My card had apparently had some sort of issues with it and just wasn't going to work because she couldn't come up and get it. So Miss Peaches put the money on my books, $300, so that I could finally bail myself out of jail after spending months and months in jail. And because I had been assaulted by an officer in January of 2016 or 2018, sorry. I had assault against a police officer on my record, and every single officer that I've dealt with after that has basically just been a fuck nugget. Some of them talk nicely to me, but most of them are complete and total pieces of shit. And Mandy Hughes said that when I got out, that she would go in with me to talk to the police. And Miss Peaches put the money on my books, and when I got out of jail, I paid her back for that money plus $100 because I said that I would. She wasn't sure if she was going to make her bills that month, and I fucking had to make sure that she did, especially after finally getting me out of there. Um, so I went to Miss Tabby's, and yeah, there's a few of them on the Selena one that the comments aren't on there anymore. I figured out how to block people who were assholes. There's some guys who were pretty racist on there, so I got the fuck rid of them. Um, anyway, so I was at Tabby's, and when I had been at Tabby's the first time, I'd spent a lot of money there. But also, I want you to know that Miss Tabby and her family work together. When the house is fucking trashed, everybody cleans it. When it's dinner time, um, either Tabby cooks or her oldest daughter cooks usually. Um, I mean, it was a very loving environment, except for an asshole named Joshua Eichelberg. This guy was such a piece of shit. And Tabby just wouldn't get rid of him because she didn't want to be alone. And he wasn't supposed to be there. There was already protection orders against him, and he shouldn't have been there. Well, around this time, I was trying to get my vehicle out because it was full of evidence, and I still needed to go in to make sure that those police officers paid for the crimes that they committed and didn't get away with the bullshit that they pulled. And I got a hold of Alyssa Rainwater, and she had had a lot of issues, and she just encountered a bunch of money issues. And a lot of that was probably because she was spending so much money on the telephone for me. And it was just fucking hell for her. And she couldn't go in with me to talk to the police. And also at that time, I couldn't get my vehicle out. I needed enough money to pay for the tow bill and also to pay for insurance, or they weren't going to allow me to have it out. And I was only $100 short. And Graham, he wanted some tools that I had, and he was willing to pay me $100 for them. And he also wanted my violin, which was still in my vehicle, and he wasn't going to pay for the violin unless he saw it. So he was going to give me $100 on Friday. When he didn't give me $100 on Friday, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to jump through all the goddamn hoops the government wanted me to jump through. With Alyssa Rainwater not able to go in to talk to the police with me anymore, I was pretty well fucking screwed, and I didn't have the money. I just couldn't get my vehicle out. So I gave uh, Graham ended up spending most of his money on weed and alcohol. So he gave me $35 of the 100 that he promised me. And I was going to need all 100 of that dollars to get my vehicle out. And Dan Favorite had sent me like $80 as well. And even with that, I was still $100 short. I mean, I needed that money. Um, there's a shit ton of evidence. What type of evidence? A lot of internet evidence, a lot of paper evidence. There's a lot of evidence from my court dates that show that these fucking lawyers outright lied and the public pretenders outright lied, and that they made no effort to defend me, and also the police officers outright lied. Now, Mandy Hughes can testify to that. So can Miss Peaches. So can Katie Kate. Um, so can Candace, matter of fact. But anyway, that's not part of my story at the moment. So I'm at Tabby's, and Graham doesn't pay me all the money he's going to, and so I also need to get my backpack full of evidence that was stolen by Brian Valenzuela. That bag of evidence that I literally had broken the law to try to force the police to take a look at. I had literally taken that bag to every court date, every public pretender appointment where these public pretenders just kept on not showing up. Um, and it's all evidence of repeated harassment, and not just harassment, but threats against my life that had been ongoing. I mean, they just kept on stacking on top of each other. And I was still basically homeless. I'm trying to get my disability money back. I'm trying to get something going so that I can actually take care of myself. And I actually had to reestablish my card in order to get any of that done too. I had to go into Ace Checking, which Brenda Dickinson, another person who I'm very pissed off at, and I'm also harassing. Mind you, I'm going to tell you all the people I've been harassing and why. Um, Brenda Dickinson had helped me, her and her sister, stepsister, something like that, sister in law, had helped me to get an account with Ace Checking. And there was an Ace Checking just across the street from where uh, Tabby and her kids lived. And so Tabby got rid of uh, her asshat boyfriend, long term boyfriend, finally, but not until after I left. See, here's the situation. Mateo Talbot, he was going to take me down to get my vehicle or to get my bag of evidence. On the way to go get my bag of evidence, Mateo Talbot, who is the one that gave me the violin to begin with, his vehicle broke down on the way there. So we had to go back. And then we got lucky because Tabby's second oldest daughter and her boyfriend gave me a ride to go down and get that evidence. The evidence that Brian Valenzuela had stolen, including this very computer that I have right here that I'm using. And there was a lot of stuff on it that was tainted when I got it back, including that conversation that me and Mandy Hughes had with Officer uh, Jared Hahn here in Chapel, Nebraska. Anyway, so that's when the Friday rolled around and Graham didn't have the money. So even though he had given me $35, I gave him $50 and uh, started heading for California. Now, mind you, at this point, I'm literally fleeing state. There's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to get an honest court date. There's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to get my car out. So I fucking figured I'd book it just long enough to get a case put together and show what was going on. Shannon Alvarado had told me that if I went to California, that she would help me. She had said that I could use her address. I mean, she had made all sorts of promises of if I went there, if I went there, if I went there. And I knew it was a long shot, but it was fucking better than nothing. That's for damn sure. Especially since I had warrants in Nebraska and Colorado because I was illegally prevented from going to those court dates. And now, mind you, Mandy Hughes and Alyssa Rainwater at this point are still wonderful to me. So is Miss Peaches. I'm pissed off that they didn't come forward in court, but at the same time, they couldn't. The police outright refused to listen to anyone who tried to come forward with a report. And Miss Peaches had a limited amount of time that she could actually go in and do that. And these people needed to write down paper reports as a result and get those paper reports to my public pretenders. But without a telephone to even contact these people, that just wasn't a happening thing. So I spent that money to get to California. I had given $50 to Graham, who was supposed to send all of that evidence the next Friday. And well, the first time that he had said that, he only gave me $35. And the second time he said that, he didn't send it to Shannon Alvarado's on Friday. Matter of fact, he also kept my Bible, which bugged the shit out of me. Still bugs the shit out of me. Um, so I'm in California and I'm waiting. It's almost Friday and he hasn't sent this thing yet. And I was pissed off. I really needed everybody to know, including the general public and Miss Peaches and all of them, what the fuck is actually going on. And I was calling people, and they were just Alyssa Rainwater and Mandy Hughes both let me know that Alyssa had talked to Amanda Jonas about Ted Bollinger and that she was willing to investigate it and was interested in investigating it. And I called Amanda Jonas and I recorded the conversation because I was sick of that shit out of crooked fucking cops turning off their body cameras and fucking outright lying to me like fucking pieces of shit. And it was at that point that I realized, I really need to start recording every conversation. I really do. I mean, I'm not the only one at risk here. There are a lot of people who stuck up for me who had their lives threatened, and the fucking cops won't look at a goddamn bit of it, no matter where the fuck it happens, no matter where the fuck I am. And at this point, where I'm at now, today, I'm scared shitless to talk to the cops without somebody there. Um, the thing that's really saving me is the fact that I have YouTube channel. I mean, I can video it live now. So when I was in California, I started recording the conversations between myself and these other people, the things that they should have come forward in court about, but weren't allowed to do so. None of my public pretenders gave a fuck what any of these people said. The slander that was allowed in my court dates was completely fucked, and these witnesses knew that it was fucking bullshit. So I started recording them. Meanwhile, I'm getting my life threatened by people like Blaine McCrelius, aka Freak, and I'm having situations happen with that are it's fucking destroying my life. I mean, my life is already gone by this point. Um, and I'm just holding on for dear life, hoping that Shannon Alvarado is going to keep her word. And I get there, and holy shit, she's a fucking alcoholic, and she's bad. Like during the day, she's great and wonderful because she's sober. But 6 o'clock, like clockwork, she starts drinking, and she's a fucking evil bitch. Oh my god! And I'm in a very scary situation. I can barely function, and I started recording people because what they were saying and what the cops were saying was completely fucking different. So the conversation with Alyssa Rainwater and one with Mandy Hughes and what they had to say about the situation, as well as what Amanda Jonas had to say about the situation, were miles apart. And also, Amanda Jonas admitted that she did not turn on her body cam. Imagine that. How many of these officers did not turn on their body cameras? And how many didn't turn on the body cameras until they realized that they were being recorded? Mind you, um, at this point, Amanda Jonas is aware that I'm recording her. She is very well safeguarding her words because she's figured out that I'm going after the police for the fucking bullshit that they did to me. Um, and I recorded Peaches and our conversations. And I was also in contact with a woman named Katie Cahill who was telling me about all the threats and harassment and bullshit that she was going through. And she had claimed that she would defend me in court, that she would be my lawyer. But she lives in Iowa or Illinois or something like that. And she just outright didn't keep her word. She had started a Facebook group, and I got that Facebook group. She gave it to me because she didn't want to deal with those bullies anymore. So I got that Facebook group, which I was able to go through and complain about a lot of the just a little bit of the harassment that was on there. I took screenshots of it with my phone, and then I would complain specifically about a guy named um, Adam Klein, who was working with the Bollinger family to threaten, harass, and intimidate me for the entire year. Um, and they kept on making fake accounts to threaten my life, and a lot of that stuff is actually on here. They're friends with their fake accounts. It's pretty fucked. And So when I was in Washington State, after going through hell at my dad's and going through hell at Shannon's, and Shannon is too drunk to keep a word the whole time I'm fucking there. During the day, she's not too drunk, but she's taking care of her kids. At night, she is too drunk to function. She can just basically scream at people. So I started recording the conversations between uh, myself and all of these people whose eyewitness reports should have been taken by the police. All of these people who had told me that they would go in with me to talk to the police. I recorded that shit. These people really should have come forward, and the police really should have taken their report. And that includes Aaron Cockerham and a whole bunch of other people. And all the people that were recorded later on were very pissed that I recorded them. But also, I had to record that because a lot of them just didn't keep their fucking word. And the thing is that the way that I was slandered in court, I needed to prove that what those officers was saying was outright slander, that they had outright refused to take a report from any of these people. I mean, there was nothing that the police were going to do. They weren't going to listen to anyone who wasn't against me, which is the whole reason that I broke the law to fucking begin with. If I call 911, I get treated the way that Jordan Anderson treated. If they call the cops will show up immediately and believe anything that they fucking say. The cops won't look at any of the threats, harassment, or abuse that I'm going through, but they will do it if I threaten, harass, or otherwise to other people. So if I'm going to get a day in court, I have to force the fucking cops to do their jobs. The thing with Mandy Hughes is that she's afraid of Ted Bollinger and she was afraid of being targeted by the police. And when I let her know that I had recorded her telephone calls, she accused me of putting her family at risk. No, she put all of my friends and family at risk by not coming forward. If she did actually come forward, then she needs to sue the fuck out of the cops. I waited on her and waited on her and waited on her and waited on her through multiple occasions when she was going to go talk to the cops and make a report, and just it never happened. Why not, Mandy Hughes? You need to write a police report about that. You need to write a report about that I can try to get a lawyer with. Now, um, she wanted to get really pissed off at me and tell me that her family are mobsters, and also that she had seen Ted at least twice in the grocery store and that she was scared shitless of him. And that was all in our text messages. And that's when some crazy fucking lady, and this is all on my YouTube videos here too, some crazy lady, she asked if she could use my phone and she fucking stole it. Meanwhile, another lady had sent me $100 so that I could move my vehicle because I was stuck in the parking lot. And I ended up spending that $100 to try to get that phone back that was stolen by buying that girl a new phone because that phone was full of evidence. When I got that phone back, I mean, I have crippling panic attacks. And I literally, when I have to walk away from something, I have to walk away from it or I'm going to scream for help at the top of my lungs and I'm going to get arrested for disturbing the peace because I'm having a fucking meltdown. And my phone got stolen again, and so did my computer. And I went through that whole fucking town. And mind you, this is all stuff that I recorded right here on YouTube, by the way. These situations are recorded. And I went to the police about my stolen stuff, and they didn't do shit. And I finally was able to find it because I paid another homeless guy to go with me. And when we finally got to my stuff, I was explaining to him that I'm going after fucking child molesters and rapists and shit like that. So we find the guy who stole my computer, and it's a guy who I had helped. Um, I can't tell you that on this video. Chapel, Nebraska. I live next to the railroad tracks. Anyway, so I I let Mandy Hughes know what was going on. I let her know that I had recorded them, and I'd like to have that phone back, but I can't. Those things were stolen from me multiple times while I was in Tacoma, Washington, which is a whole bunch of heroin addicts up there. It's a fucking shithole. Um, I went to high school there, by the way. I went to Lincoln High School in Tacoma, Washington. It's a minority high school. I got to. It was more comfortable than going to school here in Chapel, Nebraska. Here in Chapel, Nebraska, there was just too many racist white people. I don't mean to say that to be an asshole. Just I grew up in the system with a bunch of minorities. Um, so Blaine McCrelly is one of the people who had been threatening my life. This is the ex-boyfriend of Dawn Bird, the lady who had assaulted me at Ken and Leah's, and the reason that I left Ken and Leah's on the 26th of December in specific was over that assault and Ken and Leah screaming at me in their kitchen. So um, Blaine McCrelius let Miss Peaches know that I was recording her, and she called me up and was pissed off that she was recorded, but she kind of sort of forgave me. Um, but then, I was explaining to her, hey, Miss Peaches, I've been trying the best that I can. I've been going through this shit for fucking years over something that I didn't do. I went to your house 4 times before Natalie died to try to explain to you what was going on, and I ended up getting yelled at and screamed at and fucking talked over. And she told me I should have tried harder. I should have, if Miss Peaches had taken the time to sit down with me, she'd have seen that I'd been talking with multiple people. I'd gone to the police on multiple occasions. I had done everything that I could. I could not possibly try harder. Um, You know, I mean, that's the thing. And I got fucking pissed off. I really did. And I said that Miss Peaches didn't do anything at all. Yes, Chapel is a very small town. It's a mile wide and half a mile long. It's fucking tiny as shit. It's less than 500 people living here now. Anyway, so I, yeah, I slandered the shit out of Miss Peaches. I really did. I said that she didn't do a goddamn thing and that she made zero effort whatsoever. And the fact is, she just never wrote a report. And without a report and without her getting that to the police, it wasn't going to make any difference. But also, I had already recorded that the police refused to take a report from her. They refused to take one from me. They obviously didn't take one from Mandy Hughes, and Alyssa Rainwater was going to go in with me. Obviously, the things that she had to say didn't make any fucking difference because they didn't make it to the courts either. So here's the thing, though. The thing is that these are all good people. Mandy Hughes is a good person. Miss Peaches is a good person. Tabitha Michelle Cook is a good person. These people are all pissed off because I recorded them. I recorded the things that obviously the police and the courts, all of the courts, should have taken a look at. I literally broke the law to try to force the police to put a stop to the abuse that I was enduring. But I was being abused by police, and they did everything in their power to protect their fellow officers by not taking a report from Mandy Hughes, by not taking a report from Miss Peaches, by not taking a report from me, by not taking a report from any of these people. To this day, I will tell you what all of these people did for me that was good. No matter how pissed off I am, I'm not going to pretend that they didn't do anything at all. That's fucking stupid. The thing is that these people have evidence that needed to be presented in court. They had testimony of the threats and harassment and assaults that I had been repeatedly put through by the Bollinger family and their cronies. Mind you, I was illegally prevented from going to those court dates as well. Those were civil court dates. Brian Valenzuela had agreed not to arrest me because I already admitted to committing the crime over at Ken and Leah's. I lit the road next to their truck on fire, and I admitted it to him the first time we talked about it. And he agreed to not arrest me until after court so that I could show what I needed to about what the Bollinger family was doing because they were trying to get protection orders against me after all the bullshit that they had put me through. And I needed to be able to go to that court date in order to protect myself from Bollingers and their fucking cronies, who, by the way, continued to harass me after I got out of jail. Not that it makes any difference. Um, so Miss Peaches, she saw that video and she was fucking pissed. And she was saying, well, you said I made zero effort to help. Well, I'm going to show you what zero help is. I'm like, well, fuck you, Miss Peaches. You're a fucking cunt. And I've been harassing Mandy Hughes for a while there, but I just kind of gave up on her. Um, when I got back here to Nebraska, I decided I was going to start harassing him again. And I started harassing him again so that I could get myself a court date so I could try to get them on the stand about this situation. And I've been attempting to get the FBI involved since before they found Natalie's killer. Mandy Hughes is wonderful. Alyssa Rainwater is wonderful. Miss Peaches is wonderful. And Shannon Alvarado is actually a wonderful person when she's sober. Shannon herself is great. Shannon drunk is scary as fuck. Um, and that's the thing is that I need their testimony. This whole jurisdiction bullshit, my paperwork that I've got from Arapahoe County, that the stuff that they did send me, that at least shows I can compare that with the conversations with Mandy Hughes and Alyssa Rainwater and Miss Peaches and prove that those fucking cops outright lied and slandered the fuck out of my name. I can also prove with the conversations between me and Mandy Hughes and Alyssa Rainwater that the cops wouldn't do their jobs no matter where I went, and they absolutely refused to take a report. And also, Alyssa Rainwater and Mandy Hughes. Mandy Hughes was supposed to have spoken with Pamela Cardy, my public pretender there. Um, Pamela Cardy, yeah, she didn't bring that up in court. That was fucking bullshit. But also by that point, I'd threatened to sue her for not doing her fucking job. I mean, that it was so screwed up. So basically, these people all spent a bunch of money, but without their written reports, it didn't make any difference. They needed to write those reports down like they said they would, and they just didn't for whatever reason. I mean, the police wrote down that nobody would go in with me probably because of the way that I act. No, the way that I was acting is because I was being abused, and the police wouldn't do a goddamn thing about it. They wouldn't take a report from Aaron Cockerham, wouldn't take one from me, wouldn't take one from Peaches, wouldn't take one from Mandy. That shit needed to go to my fucking lawyer, and I was prevented from speaking with any of these people when it would have made a difference. So I had to prove after the fact, after I've been threatened, harassed, coerced, threatened, intimidated, assaulted throughout the jail for almost 2 months, when I got out, I had to prove what the hell I'd been through. Um, all right, El Fluffy. My real name is Sean David Schwartz. My real location is in Chapel, Nebraska. You can call and verify from the Chapel Sheriff's Department that I'm here. Yeah, Schwartz, Schwartz. Um, yes, I'm disabled. I was able to travel to these places because people donated money for me to travel. When I went from uh, um, Colorado to California, um, the little bit of money that I had left from my disability that was still in my account, because they stopped sending it to me when I was in jail for 30 days. Anyway, so I used the last of that money. I gave it to Tabby's oldest daughter so that she could buy me a bus ticket to California. And then from California, there was a guy who was interested in a pulse jet engine that I had made, and he sent me some money to make those. And my dad offered to pay me back that money if I used that money to get on a train to Washington State. So I ran out of there in a fucking hurry. I was so glad to leave Shannon Alvarado's. That was a scary place to be. So that guy who wanted the jet engine, his name was Andre Gagasian. And when I was in Washington State, I found out that guy wanted to use them for weapons to kill people. And I'm just not down with that. So I stopped helping him out. Um, and he told me I could keep the money. It was no big thing. Um, my dad's house was hell. My dad treated me completely like shit the whole time I was up there. Uh, but he gave me some of the money that I needed to leave there, and that's how I ended up um, in Montana. I got stuck in Billings. That's all the further my dad's money was able to get me, but I was glad to have it. And when I got stuck in, or no, I got stuck in Bozeman. Um, when I was stuck in Bozeman, somebody had sent me some money so I could go from Bozeman to. I finally made it to Hardin, Montana, when my vehicle broke down, and um, I had just a little bit of money left, but it was too cold to go anywhere, and I started giving people rides in Hardin, Montana, to wherever their houses were, like John Nomi and um, Lila Mountain Sheep and Gilbert and um, uh, Mary Lyon shows, and mostly it was to the liquor stores. And I got to hear a lot about treatment there. You guys call it treatment in Montana. We call it rehab in Colorado. It's the same thing, though. And then I was able to make it from a guy named Russell Huggins gave me some money. So I was able to get from there down to Cheyenne, Wyoming. And when I got to Cheyenne, Wyoming, Ran Ingersoll was going to help me out, but she was an alcoholic. I didn't know that at the time. And she offered to let me stay there with her and her husband. Her husband wasn't okay with that, though. No, I didn't give lifts for money. I, they were lucky to have money for alcohol. Um, I gave rides in exchange for use of Mary's back room so that I could film my videos somewhere that wasn't fucking frozen. Also, her grandmother, uh, Julia Wolf, was a very, very sweet lady. Um, I was there twice. I was there in, um, God, I'm trying to remember. Um, you'd have to ask John and Mary Lyon shows, or Mary Lyon shows. You might also ask Stephanie King. Um, there's videos from when I was there. I think it, I think it might have been March. Yes, March 11th is when I made the video about the missing women of Hardin, Montana. I'd been there about a week at that point. Um, and that was, I made that video because they were letting me know that there was about 100 people missing from that area. There's 28 or 27, I guess, 28 specifically missing from Hardin, but there's about 100 missing Native women from that area. That was March of last year. And then from Cheyenne, Wyoming, when that shit went down, and there was some bullshit at the Starbucks that happened because there was somebody who didn't like me who worked there. And then let's see. From there, There was a situation I ended up going to. Well, I came here to Nebraska, and then I got a ride back up to Washington State. There was a guy named Cat on heroin and a woman that was with him, and I gave them a ride all the way up to Washington State, and we stopped and gas jugged there in Hardin, Wyoming. Um, I didn't get my car repaired. I had to kind of sort of repair it myself, but it was actually a Jeep that I had gotten in Washington State. That's part of the reason that I wasn't getting very far, is because a Jeep is a lot more expensive on gas than a Honda Civic. Um, so we gas jugged, and when we were in Hardin, Montana, Kat actually got to meet Mary, and uh, I think we met Lila. We definitely saw Gilbert while we were there, though. And then we got to Washington State, and Kat was really fucked up and trying to get heroin while I was there. I was going to give him my Jeep because I couldn't afford it, but he assured me that he had a pickup truck that he was there for. Um, and that whole situation ended up completely fucked. My vehicle got stolen, all my computers got stolen. That's when all of that happened. Um, no, that would have been end of July or August, I think. I'm not for certain. Um, but that's actually on my YouTube videos here. Um, so my Jeep got towed, and I was fucked with by officers, and it was a very fucked up situation up there. That's how officers treat you when you have assaulting a police officer on your arrest record. Um, Cops are just pieces of shit all around. Anyway, so I was able to make it. Rihanna Ingersoll needed help, and she had gotten a hold of me when my phone was stolen, but my phone was stolen, so I didn't know she'd gotten a hold of me. And I finally got back to her. She thought that I was blowing her off, but I wasn't. My stuff had been stolen. Um, no, this is when I was in Washington State. Anyway, so I went from Washington State to Rawlins, Wyoming, and we were supposed to help take care of the meth head's kids. The meth head's name is Amy Kalina Kingery, and Rayanne is a severe alcoholic. So when I got there, I can't even take care of myself, mind you. And the agreement that we had made was it went right out the fucking window. And I'm literally there basically taking care of three children. Ran is too drunk to act like an adult. The two girls are fucking spoiled as shit. They've also been through some real shit in the system. So I mean, I'm basically taking care of all three of them, and I can't even take care of myself. It was just a fucked up situation. Um, and then that's where my vehicle got stolen by the police, along with this computer. Because Rihanna was drunk. By the way, the conversation with her about that is on this YouTube channel as well. And then from there, because I was trying to turn in police, they gave me the mentally ill treatment, and then uh, sent me, put me on a bus, and threatened to arrest me if I didn't get on it. So I got on the bus to go see Shannon Alvarado again, who had been telling me while I was in the hospital there that she was going to help. She was going to help. So I made it there. She claimed that, she was sober and her and her boyfriend hadn't screamed in months. And if I went there, that everything would be fine. So I started going there. And when I was almost there, her and her boyfriend started being assholes to me on the phone. Mind you, I was on a bus at this point. So I spent a couple of days at the Los Angeles bus terminal. That place is fucking nasty, dealing with a bunch of meth heads and a bunch of heroin heads there. And then from there, a guy named Brandon Ratner, who's been a long term friend of mine, he bought me a bus ticket to go to Bristol, Virginia to see a guy named Moose, Brett Roloff. And the videos of that situation are also on this YouTube channel because when I got there, it turned out he was addicted to meth, and his girlfriend was addicted to meth, and they were selling meth, and they were fucking screaming at each other all the damn time, and I was fucking scared shitless. And then from there, I was able to get a ride because King of Nichols had sent me some money to get on a bus. Um, so I was able to get on a bus from there to uh, South Dakota, Rapid City, and I was going to kill myself there. Jamie Curtis was going to drop me off in the mountains, and I was going to starve myself to death. Well, then her ex-boyfriend, his cousin had just been continually harassing, or his nephew had been continually harassing me, not leaving me the fuck alone. I was so fucking pissed, and I fucking retaliated. I fucking yelled at his ass, and I was pissed off. Well, um, I made a video while I was up there about how I liked Jamie's new boyfriend more than I liked James, which was her ex boyfriend. Well, it turned out she was still dating James, and he saw the video. So Jamie got a hold of me screaming at the top of her fucking lungs. And also, mind you, Natalie Bollinger's sister had gone missing the day that I got to uh, South Dakota. As I was pulling into South Dakota and getting ready to get off the bus, uh, I found out that Natalie Bollinger's sister was missing. So then I started trying to help find her, and that was a scary fucking situation. And from there, like I spent a couple of days trying to help find her, calling news stations, trying to get them to make it as public as possible and get her found. She was dropped off in a very fucking scary place, and that is also on this YouTube. And then from there, Jamie was screaming at the top of her lungs at me and all that. Turned out that she was dating James at the time. His conversation is also on this YouTube, um, as well as her screaming at me, which is also on this YouTube. Like I said, I should have been recording everyone's conversations from the beginning. Um, so then all these people are pissed off at me and threatening to sue me because I recorded their conversations, but at least the conversations show the truth. So then, from Rapid City, South Dakota, they, when I was trying to turn in the whole situation and all of that, and fucking trying to vent about how overwhelmed I was dragged in for the mentally ill fucking treatment again and fucked with at that hospital. Now, that hospital was completely fucked. They assaulted the shit out of me in that hospital. And then they bought me a ticket to get on a bus to get the fuck out of there so that I couldn't write a report against them. And I was fucking glad because it was the middle of the winter. It was colder than a cast iron commode on the shady side of an iceberg. Yes, Rapid City, South Dakota. Those videos are on here as well. So they put me on a bus from Rapid City, South Dakota. I came down here for Rory Jepson's funeral, who is also someone who is an extremely wonderful person. And he was going to help me go after the Chapel Police Department for not doing their fucking jobs. My safety at no point was a concern. That's the thing, is that at no point in time was my safety a concern of anyone. Meanwhile, through that whole time, I was busy rescuing people and helping people to get safe, assisting heroin heads and meth heads and homeless people and addicts galore. And there is so much of that from one side of this country to the other. I mean, everywhere that I went, I was dealing with addicts, and everywhere that I went, I was trying to help them best I could within my means. Um, so then, when I was sent here, or when I got here, I went to Rory's funeral, and then I was arrested and taken to Scotts Bluff over the situation that had happened here, um, with Sheriff Scott DaCosta and all of his deputies, at the time. And then, yes, it was off to Nebraska, Chapel, Nebraska in specific. And then I went to Rawlins, Wyoming, thank goodness to Brandon Ratner, who again spent a shit ton of money to make sure that I got to my court date. But I had to plead guilty to that. There was no way I was going to be able to fight that in court. I didn't have the money to show up, and I couldn't just wait there in Rapid City for the very same officers who had harassed me and fucking pulled their bullshit before. I couldn't just wait for them to do it again. That's the thing, is that I was helping me every bit of the way. Um, as far as helping these addicts out, most of them helped me out as well. If it weren't for Cat gas jugging, we never would have made it from Cheyenne, Wyoming to Washington State. Um, the addicts up in Washington State, I mean, there's just so many of them. When they were stealing my stuff, being nice to them is the reason that people who were homeless helped me to get my stuff back. I literally saved a woman's life there the first time I was there, in 2019. I mean, I saved a woman's life, and her friends that were there when my computer went missing, her friends are the ones who helped me to find it because I had saved her life. Um, when the meth heads had stolen my stuff, it was other meth heads who helped me to go find it because they knew I was going after child molesters and rapists, and that's what that computer was full of. The thing is that the homeless and the junkies cared more about going after child molesters and rapists than the police did. The police, all they cared about was the fact that I had assaulting a police officer on my record. Fuck the police. Um, Also, Desiree, she had rescued me a couple of times before she turned into a meth head. So when I rescued her, it wasn't no big thing. It was returning the favor. She just stole everything from me when I did that. But also, she was living in a trap house in Cheyenne when I went to rescue her. And fuck, man, I'm not letting no homie of mine be stuck in that situation. If they ask for help, I'm gonna go fucking rescue them. Even after she stole my shit, I still went and rescued her. I mean, fuck yes, I love Desiree. People are more important than things 100% of the time. Anyway, a lot of these addicts that I helped out, they ended up helping me out. The police didn't. So I was glad that these addicts existed, believe it or not. Rihanna was a longtime friend of mine, and she offered to help. And she was involved in several of the situations I was in, and I needed her to make a report about that. I mean, the cops kept on saying I wasn't trying. And every time that I tried to speak to them without somebody else in person, I got the mentally ill treatment. And I just needed that to not happen. If somebody was there in person, it turned out different. And there's video footage of that too. The fact that if somebody was there in person, they didn't give me the mentally ill treatment. I mean, they tried to, but the fact that somebody was there to protect my rights made a big fucking difference, even if they were meth heads. Anyway, I hope that explains this whole fucking situation. All of the evidence is here on YouTube. The meth heads, the prostitutes, the um, security guards, police officers, um, the situations where my stuff was stolen when I tried to turn in the officers to their superiors. Instead of their superiors calling me back, it was the officers that I was trying to make a report about. I mean, it's just been a completely fucked situation. But the fact is, without somebody going in with me, it's always going to be the mentally ill treatment. And since I don't have an income and haven't had an income since before Natalie was killed, all of my money was stolen before Natalie was killed. And then in between when Natalie was killed and when I finally threatened to kill the President of the United States to try to force the FBI to look at all of these different jurisdictions of fucked up bullshit, um, all of my money had been spent going to court dates that they just postponed again and again and again. And also going to see public pretenders who couldn't see me on the same day. They had to see me on a different day. So I had to spend another $100 for those trips. And then they had their investigators I was supposed to see, and literally not one of these investigators ever showed up. And that's another $100, and they can't meet me on the same days. So I'm spending $300 for every court date that I need to go to, and I'm going to a court date every month for the incident at Clearview. Look up Clearview Behavioral Health. Matter of fact, I'll post a link here for you. Um, I'm literally spending $300 a month on the stuff for Clearview and $300 a month for the Boulder stuff while that was going on. And I mean, that's costing me $600 a month, and I'm only getting $600 a month for disability. And meanwhile, there's a bunch of other stuff that I have to run around and do. And when I went to jail in Arapahoe County, which is the situation that Alyssa, Rainwater, and Mandy Hughes with the telephone incident happened, um, like that's when they took away my disability money and refused to give it back. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't take care of myself before Natalie died. I couldn't take care of myself when I went to Virginia. I mean, I made that trip because I didn't want Natalie to fucking die. Jesus fuck. This is Clearview Behavioral Health right here. Anyway, I'm gonna end this video.